Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us, coming to you from Washington's premier indoor shooting facility. That is Security Gun Club right here in Woodinville, Washington, America. I know most of you've got to be exhausted about all of the brouhaha that's going on with suppressors. I'll tell you who's really got to be exhausted. My good friends Jared over at Guns and Gadgets and Braden over at Langley Outdoor Academies. Both of them have been doing a fantastic job of literally giving you day by day, minute by minute, blow by blow updates of the sausage being made. I do not have the patience or tolerance to do it, so kudos to both of them. Right now it's halftime of a very, very bloody football game, and now this is where we step in with our halftime commentary. So what we're going to do is just kind of get you educated about what's happening, where we are, and where do we go from here. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about what's really going on with suppressors. Okay, like I said at the beginning of the video, both Jared over at Guns and Gadgets, great guy, great channel, Braden over at Langley Outdoor Academies, great guy, great channel, have been doing a fantastic job of actually giving you minute by minute, play by play as it goes on. I don't have the patience for it, so check their channels out. We're going to link them up down below. They have really been doing a fantastic job, so kudos to both of you guys. Now, we're just going to talk about what's going on with suppressors because it has been in the news, especially in our little sphere, day in and day out, so you can understand what's going on, what's the advantages, and are you getting sold a bill of goods? Because that's a lot of different questions that people have. Anytime we do a video on this channel about, wow, here's a really cool piece of legislation, you'll know that right towards the end of the video comes the big however. And the however is we can't get legislation like that passed because even if we get it out of the House, we need what? That's right, 60 votes in the Senate. And when you never have had really a majority of that size in decades, it is really difficult to do, especially when it comes to, expansion or fortification of gun rights. But if legislation could get attached to the budgeting process through efforts known as reconciliation, where we figure out where's the money going to go and where's it going to come from, well, now we avoid the Senate filibuster, which means simple majorities in both chambers can advance the bill to the president's desk. Enter the Hearing Protection Act as part of the what is now being labeled the Big Beautiful Bill, but essentially it's the 2025 Reconciliation Act. Okay, what does it do? What it will do, if this comes to fruition, and we'll talk about what it's going to take to come to fruition, is it will take the suppressors, and only the suppressors. They will no longer be considered NFA items, which means you will not be filling out a Form 4 to accumulate one. You will not be filling out a Form 1 to build one. Instead, they will be governed like all other non-NFA items through a 4473, presumably to the same sales process as you have for any other item as your state drafts that. Now, for those of you who do not think there should be any federal regulation of suppressors whatsoever, I'm not going to argue that point with you, but here's the problem. You couldn't make that change through a Reconciliation Act. No, that would require an amendment to the National Firearms Act, that would require an amendment to the Gun Control Act, and now you're talking about passing legislation with that 60-vote threshold in the Senate. And while the Democrats are screaming bloody murder, all we're really doing here is we're saying that the item is still being regulated the same way, but no longer subject to the tax stamp. And since it's no longer subject to the tax stamp, it is not regulated as an NFA item, nor will we use NFA documents to accumulate the items. So will there be legal challenge to this? Oh, most definitely. If the Republicans pull it off this way, there will be legal challenges. And the question will be, does it comport with an old rule known as the Byrd Rule? And candidly, if all we're talking about is eliminating a tax revenue during a reconciliation process, because that's all that's occurring here, I think it is well within that rule. So it passes out of the House and now sits in the Senate. What can happen there? Well, a lot of things can happen, and most of them aren't good. But one of the things that could happen is that the Senate could bicker about this for a while and everyone puff their chest out and do their news conferences and make their threats. And then it still passes in the exact form it is coming out of the House. And if it were to do that, if it were to pass out of the Senate in the same form that it is in the House, it goes to the president's desk for signature. Now, Senator Rand Paul has already said that he will not vote for this, but that is Senator Rand Paul, and he is not voting it for many reasons, and none of them have anything to do with the subject matter of today's video. It has to do with spending and things like that, and that has been an issue that Senator Paul has been very, very consistent on, okay? But there really is only a couple of more votes that we cannot afford to lose before this thing is dead in the water. The other thing that can happen is the Senate could go ahead and muck it all up and make changes. And understand, when I say make changes, I'm not talking about making changes just to the suppressor. There is a laundry list of items that is in a reconciliation. And so any change to any portion of that will then require the bill to go into a reconciliation committee with members from the House, and the Senate will have to agree on a final version. So yeah, the more the Senate Republicans tinker around with any portion of this bill, the greater likelihood is that it's going to get caught up, and therefore there is a significantly higher probability that this provision could end up getting taken back out as what? That's right, part of a backroom deal. Now, recall the Hearing Protection Act actually came out of this Reconciliation Act pretty early on in the Ways and Means Committee, but then some very, very strong vocal support for putting it back in there came from many of the national Second Amendment organizations and a lot of you lawful and responsible gun owners. So now, listen, some of the larger national 2A organizations differ on what should happen with this. Groups such as GOA suggest that this reconciliation bill doesn't go far enough and that SBR should also be pulled off of the NFA list as well. And again, it would be done in the same way. You would just exempt that item from collection of that special tax. Suddenly they come off of Form 4 and they go on to a 4473. There are other groups out there, such as the NRA, that are taking a look at, hey, listen, we got a pretty significant step and it's right there ready for the taking. Do we want to get in there and screw this all up, or is that perhaps next year's effort or a different type of legislative effort? I'm not defending either one side. I'm not criticizing either one side. There obviously are varying opinions about what should come from what everyone is calling the big, beautiful bill. But honestly, right now, the best case scenario, okay, the best case scenario that's realistic is that, yes, at the conclusion of this legislative process, when it's signed by the president, suppressors will be moved off the list as an NFA item and now governed under a 4473, similar to all other normal firearms. Now listen, I know that's not going to be good enough for some of you. Some of you believe that they should really have no federal regulation whatsoever. Understand, if they have no federal regulation, that is, they are not defined as firearms whatsoever, they also then have no Second Amendment protection whatsoever. And you can rest assured, and I can promise you folks, if this actually comes to fruition, all of the states on the Dirty Dozen list, these ones right here, you will see legislation next year to try to outright ban suppressors. And that will be an attempt to ban an item which is clearly protected by the Second Amendment. Okay, so that's our halftime update where we sit right now. We're going to turn it back over for third quarter action to our play-by-play analysts. Very carefully watch this, and when the game is over, we will again get you updated and talk about, okay, where do we sit now, what actually happened, and what does it really mean to us? Hey, if you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now, but if you don't, that's okay. That information down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, you click on that link right there and you tell us all about it. If you want to subscribe to the monthly newsletter, that information is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's remember, the part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.